Welcome to the Sick Mind channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. Here, every story is a crime, and every crime is a mystery. Our channel delves into the investigation of criminal cases, the root causes of crime, and the discovery of truth in the darkest corners of society. Uncover the facts. The Night Bat, Tehran's most horrifying criminal case. The Night Bat is one of the most terrifying true crime stories, unfolding several years ago in Tehran, the capital city of Iran. Imagine stepping out of your home on a spring morning, ready to go about your day. What you probably wouldn't imagine is that the driver of the car you're about to hail could turn out to be a serial killer. This is precisely what happened to 9 women of various ages in Tehran. In the spring of 1997, an escaped convict, a seasoned criminal, resumed his old habits after a period of freedom and became Tehran's Night Bat. The Night Bat was none other than Gholamreza Khoshroo, a notorious and well-known offender. Among other infamous cases like Oscar the Killer, Saeed Hanai, and even the Pakdash child murders, this case might well be considered the most famous. This criminal case received such extensive coverage by newspapers and media outlets that a novel titled The Night Bat by Siamak Golsheri was even written about it. The aforementioned killer, operating in western Tehran, was a peculiar individual. Like most other serial killers, he was cold-blooded, intelligent, and devoid of remorse. He would pick up women or women with their children in a stolen Pycon car, then kill them, sexually assault them, steal their gold, valuables, and even their shopping, and finally set their bodies on fire in secluded areas. The Night Bat was a recidivist born in a village in Khorasan province who began his criminal career with petty thefts. Each time he was arrested, he would invent a new name for himself. Our criminal story's killer couldn't properly read or write in Persian, yet he had mysteriously learned a bit of English and Russian, a fact never fully explained. This led him to being accused of espionage and spending some time in prison. After his release, he reverted to his specialty, stealing cars and other small items. He then roamed various cities, was arrested multiple times, gaining more experience until after 10 years, he was apprehended again in 1993. This time, the situation was more serious. Several young women had filed complaints about abduction, sexual assault, and theft of their gold and money by 2 occupants of a Pycon car. As a result of these complaints, Mr. Khoshroo and another man named Ali Karimi were arrested, accused, found guilty, and were on their way to be imprisoned in Vakilabad prison in Mashhad. But something else happened. Khoshroo later recounted his escape. When they were taking me to court and my hands were free, I escaped and then stole a car. Ali Karimi, his accomplice in this case, was executed according to the verdict for forcible rape. However, Khoshroo resumed his life, returned to Tehran, and lived for a few years until the spring of 1997 arrived. The story of the serial killings of women in western Tehran truly begins here. From the newly developed neighborhoods of Olympic Village, the streets around Azadi Stadium, and the empty lands near Yadigareh Imam Highway. The first body was found on April 2nd near Cheetgar Park. A 54-year-old woman whose relatives said she had left home to visit the cemetery was found by the police with her neck and hands cut, her body burned. The next body, also in April, was found in a garden in Karaj, murdered in the same manner as the first. Elahe, a young woman who was 24 at the time of her death, was the Night Bat's 3rd victim. Elahe, who intended to visit a patient in the hospital, was killed by the murderer, and her body was dumped near the Evan area. The bat's next prey was a mother and child. Their bodies were found in Asia Boulevard. The mother had been killed in the same previous manner, and the 7-year-old girl had been strangled. The third person killed in June was Parand, a dentistry student. She had come to Tehran from Hamadan and was abducted from the terminal at night. Her body, with her hands and feet bound, was found near Asia Boulevard. The next victim was a 55-year-old woman. The burned body of Gholamreza with stab wounds to her chest and neck was also found near a highway under construction in western Tehran. In the midst of this, there were also women and girls whom the killer had abducted, but perhaps by sheer luck, they managed to escape. Nevertheless, efforts to apprehend the person who was robbing the police of their sleep had not yielded results, especially since concerns that issuing security warnings would cause greater alarm prevented information dissemination about a serial killer on the loose in the city. In July of that same year, patrols from a local besiege base in Punakh became suspicious of a man trying to pick a car lock near a park. When he tried to flee, he inadvertently led the officers to a Pycon car in which he had committed some of his murders. Not only did his escape fail, but he and his suspicious car were taken to the Agahi Police Criminal Investigation headquarters in western Tehran, and it was there that the extent of the criminal they had caught finally became clear. Newspapers at the time reported that the killer initially introduced himself as Abdul Rahman and claimed to be an Afghan national. His claim became serious enough that the Afghan embassy in Iran issued a statement asking everyone to be patient until the truth of the matter became clear. Changing his name, however, was not as effective for the killer this time. His previous identity, which had once almost led him to execution, was quickly revealed. After that, his real identification documents were found, and then his brother's family and his ex-wife were located, seemingly untangling the knots of this case. It seemed that conditions had improved. The police could now confidently unveil the secret of a crime that had plagued everyone for months. Newspapers extensively covered what had transpired, and almost every day new articles about Tehran's night bat were published until the time for the trial arrived. On Saturday, July 26, 1997, the case, which had been fast-tracked and reviewed as quickly as possible, went to Branch 35 of the General Court of Tehran. There, despite the heat and the dense crowd, people awaited the start of the public trial session to hear the defendant's confessions to 9 murders in Tehran. Khoshroo, who had previously tried another tactic during interrogations by naming another person as an accomplice to absolve himself of the murder charge, this time in court also named a man named Hamid Rasooli, claiming that both the murders and the rapes were his doing. Although Khoshroo claimed he was practically Hamid Rasooli's driver, he could not explain Rasooli's whereabouts to the court. In response to the court's question on this matter, he said, "He doesn't have a fixed place to live, and you should release me so I can find him." The judge emphasized that the court had investigated all Hamid Rasoolis in the country and had not found the person Khoshroo describes. The defendant's claim, despite the public anger against him, found no credibility. Furthermore, at least one of the women who had been abducted by Khoshroo but managed to escape testified in court that the man who abducted her was alone. After the conclusion of Khoshroo's court sessions, the judiciary faced another serious problem: the gathering of people who wanted to know the verdict for the accused killer of women in western Tehran as soon as possible. Between Khoshroo's arrest and the announcement of his verdict, some individuals even tried to imitate his method of crime. For instance, a Pycon driver in western Tehran picked up a woman and then deviated from the route. However, public fear had made everyone sensitive to such incidents, and as a result of this fear, at the beginning of the Karaj Road, the woman opened the car door and screamed until several people in cars cut off the driver and stopped him. 9 counts of qisas, or retribution, and 214 lashes were the sentences finally announced for the criminal in this short crime story, the night bat. This marked the end of one of Tehran's most significant criminal cases.